Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 30th, 2025. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Sorry, I know I missed another day, took a day off, at least from the podcasting, but I figured, hey, we'll go ahead and just do a recap on the weekend as like a whole, kind of zig and zag a little bit, cover a little bit of this, cover a little bit of that. Overall, it was a good weekend. I really enjoyed myself. In terms of gym time, we got in 2 good gym sessions, both heavy lifting sessions. Got to hit all the spots, hit all the movements, so that was good. Let's see, in terms of Saturday evening, we went out. It was nice. I will say it was very cold. The winter is hitting. There was definitely fears, concerns of a storm. The big snow was, rumored to be dropping inches, but I wasn't sure exactly how much. I just knew that it was supposed to kind of drop about an hour or so, like after my usual time getting in. So I was like, okay, cool. But I was able to, get in town, got to Northside, was hanging out with the homies. We, did our first stop at Chameleon, got some pizza. I got a slice of pepperoni, a slice of cheese, just kind of toned it down a little bit. I wasn't really feeling the other slices. Not that they were bad looking. I just was like not that interested. And then I got some Cajun fries, and then another homie got a plate of mozzarella sticks for the whole table. So I got a mozzarella stick for myself. It was very good, very yummy. That was good. Nice way to start off the night. Then we went to Northside Tavern. We're hanging out, chilling, and that's when the snow started. Now, I gotta say, it came down pretty, like, rough and, like, really fast, and I was like, oh. But in, like, typical Cincinnati fashion, it was, like, pretty much a big flurry, and then, just kind of dissipated, and that was it. But that being said, hey, it is what it is. I'm glad that we dodged a bullet this time because I am not a big fan of snow. I am not a big fan of the cold. It was a little bit of rain into the next day, but getting a bit ahead of myself. Went to Junkers after Tavern, which is the usual. We hung out. It was a vibe. I will say it was one of those nights where it was, nice and chill, which I thoroughly appreciate. But you had like one bad apple who was out, and essentially this was just like a random guy, and he introduces himself to like us, and I think he was just kind of making the rounds throughout the little bar, and he seemed like okay, vibe a little off, whatever, but we can tolerate that. I can adapt. We can all be flexible. It's all good. And then at some point you just kind of realize, like, within every group interaction at the bar, he's done fucked it up. He's just killed the vibes. So at some point I'm outside, this guy's outside, another friend's outside, and he's like saying like, isn't it so crazy that there's like this cash only bar? Like, what's up with that? And it's like, brother, that's what it is. It's a cash bar. That's just how this goes. And, I pretty much just said that, and I just walked away. I was like, bro, you are nuclear. You are radioactive. So bro's a mess. It just is what it is. Sometimes you get some bad apples, but overall it was a good night. We closed it out back at HQ. One of the homies made this amazing, yummy pork cabbage stir fry, like with some ramen in it. It was so good. It was so yummy. I got like 2 helpings of that. Then also a bagel with, I think, strawberry cream cheese in it. Oh my gosh. It was like a maple, like cinnamon sugar bagel. I don't know. It was awesome. It was yummy. It totally hit the spot. And then we watched some wrestling. And that was overall the Saturday night. So that was awesome. That was good. It was a W. And then, I got up, got home. That's where we did the usual for our Sunday. Got some sleep, hit the groceries, hit the gym, and more or less that's here we are. And that's been the whole weekend. So yeah, overall good for me. Hopefully you yourself had a good weekend post all of the Thanksgiving, holiday festivities. Hopefully your leftovers were good. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into our startup and let's get into some news. All right. First story is from the Associated Press. Zelensky's chief of staff resigns after anti-corruption investigators search home. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced Friday the resignation of his powerful chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, who was also the country's lead negotiator in talks with the U.S. after Yermak's residence was searched by anti-corruption investigators. The unprecedented search at the heart of the Ukraine's government was a blow to the Ukrainian leader that risks disrupting his negotiating strategy at a time when Kyiv is under intense U.S. pressure to sign a peace deal nearly 4 years after Russia's full-scale invasion. Now, a bit of an update because I really haven't talked about that since we kind of dropped that at the time, like 28-point peace plan. Ukraine has gotten a little bit more involved in it, and they've made some changes, which in response made Russia go, okay, yeah, we hate this. We don't like it. We don't like this at all. The initial leaked one that you guys showed us, that was giving us things that we wanted. So yeah, we're good with that. This one, PU. So we really don't know. I haven't heard a big substantial update in terms of where that's at, if we're actually moving forward with it. It doesn't seem that way, but also it doesn't really seem like Trump really probably cares at this point. I think he wanted to make this thing happen before Thanksgiving, and then once he kind of heard, oh, that's not the case, well, probably threw his hands up and was like, all right, I gotta go pardon Turkey or something. But anyway, back to this article. Yermak has been a long trusted confidant of Zelensky, who has resisted persistent pressure to replace him. Also, a bit of a side thing to Yermak is essentially his position and role is kind of that of like a vice president to Zelensky. He's handled a lot with him. He's been with him since like the conception of his campaign, from being a comedian to like a comedian president to an actual president. And, he went through the whole, phone call situation with Trump in the first term, all that. He's been doing negotiations now, obviously the whole war, with Russia and Ukraine. So he's been through it all with Zelensky, kind of been this guy's right hand. But it seems like his head has kind of had to roll here because all this corruption, it comes all the way up to the top. And I'm not sure, from what I've gathered, they didn't get anything out of that raid. There's not like anything that was substantial, at least not that we know of. But that being said, it just doesn't matter. Like, someone kind of has to take the fall for this whole situation. The one Mindich guy who we've covered before, he's still in the win, if I'm not mistaken. So at the end of the day here, the responsibility falls on someone. This guy hired a lot of people who are, I think, also implicated in this whole, investigation. So essentially it's like, okay, well, this guy will do. If we can't have Zelensky or something like that, if this is going to be the grand compromise, we'll take it. That's what it's going to be. But let's see. Let me go ahead and just read a little bit further. In a nod to the controversy over Yermak's long stay at his side, Zelensky said Russia was waiting for Ukraine to make missteps and upset the delicate and tense peace negotiations. We don't have a right to retreat or argue between ourselves. If we lose unity, we risk losing everything. Ourselves, Ukraine, our future, Zelensky said. We must unite. We must hold on. We have no other choice. We won't have another Ukraine. To preserve our eternal strength, there must be no reasons to be distracted at anything else except for defense of Ukraine, he added. I don't want anybody to be questioning Ukraine, and that's why we have today's decisions. Let's see here. Was there anything else I really wanted to pull? No, I don't think so. We will be back to Ukraine either for the corruption stuff or just for the conflict stuff, one way or another. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to Donald Trump and a former Honduran president. Let's see, from CNN. Trump says he will pardon former Honduran president serving sentence in drug trafficking case. President Donald Trump said Friday he intends to grant a full and complete pardon to former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, a move that would erase a major U.S. drug trafficking conviction for a one-time U.S. ally who is currently serving a 45-year federal prison sentence. I will be granting a full and complete pardon to former President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who has been, according to many people that I greatly respect, treated very harshly and unfairly, Trump announced on his Truth Social platform. This cannot be allowed to happen, especially now, after Tito Asfura wins the election, when Honduras will be on its way to great political and financial success. Vote for Tito Asfura for president, and congratulations to Juan Orlando Hernandez on your upcoming pardon. President of Honduras from 2014 to 2022, Hernandez was sentenced last year and given an $8 million fine by a U.S. judge for drug trafficking offenses. So I love this one. I love this pardon. Obviously, Trump has given a slew of pardons already. Some very controversial, very spicy. This one is great because he's essentially using it to tip the scales in another, political election. So I love that. Just kind of like, it's very bar for bar like the Argentina, situation there, where it's like, hey, if you're not backing people who are going to support Malay, then you're not good for you're not good for Argentina. You're not good for America. We don't trust you. How could we? So we can't invest in you. Sorry. So he's doing the same kind of thing here, where he gets to tip the scale and have influence. He also gets to back a guy who is essentially now been known for drug trafficking, while on the other hand, we still have these like kill at will, missile strikes going on these narco boats. I guess I gotta put that in quotations because we don't really confirm this shit. We just kind of shoot, spray and pray, and then say, okay, we did it. We doubled up, kill them all. So Hegseth might say. So I like that we're doing, both things. We're talking out of both sides of our mouth here. That feels good. That's a very American value. Once again, I cannot stress this enough. I love how face up this administration is. Like they aren't trying to be coy here or savvy. No, we are just doing it. We're going to pardon this guy. Go ahead and vote for this guy, not the other guys, if you want, to continue to be an ally to us. Like, to me, there's no other way to say this but political meddling, but, political interference, if you will. But no, it's okay when President Trump does it. If anyone else even thinks about saying anything negative against him, though, that's a whole other thing. They should get locked up, right? I don't know. It's tough out here. The political climate, it's rough. But anyway, let me read. I wanted to read this actual whole article. Sorry. Prosecutors had accused Hernandez of conspiring with drug cartels during his tenure as they moved more than 400 tons of cocaine through Honduras toward the United States. In exchange, prosecutors said, Hernandez received millions of dollars in bribes that he used to fuel his rise in Honduran politics. During his years in office, the Justice Department said Hernandez protected and enriched the drug traffickers in his inner circle. Prosecutors cited his use of executive power to support extraditions to the United States of certain drug traffickers who threatened his grip on power, while promising drug traffickers who paid him and followed his instructions that they would remain in Honduras. The president's announcement comes as his administration has focused in recent months on what it has said is a counter-drug operation in the Caribbean, with U.S. military ramping up activity there. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime has been responding to the increase with his own show of force in the region. Essentially trying to shore up as much as they can before they get fucking land striked by us. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I think also, what was it? Trump has said over the past day or so that essentially Venezuelan airspace is closed, essentially. Like, it's like become a no-fly zone. And Venezuela, they've more or less retorted to that statement, but, I think few flights have gotten out as, what I've heard, at least like from the BBC. But anyway, Hernandez was accused and convicted of aiding drug trafficking cartels that are responsible for bringing deadly drugs to the U.S. By contrast, U.S. drug enforcement authorities say that many of the drug trafficking routes the Maduro regime enables are aimed at European illicit markets. Maduro has been facing formal drug trafficking charges from the Justice Department since 2020. It's also worth noting that, they've said, hey, we have this whole gang that is essentially derived from Venezuelan, top family officials and things like that. I forget the name, but it's like something of the sun or the soul or something. And essentially that's where they're saying, hey, this is like the drug organization that is doing all this stuff for Maduro. And, this is how we can prove it. And it's like, okay, man. But once again, this is something that we've all derived from America and saying, hey, you guys are all doing all this illegal stuff and we can definitely prove it, yada, yada, yada. And that's why we're allowed to treat you guys like terrorists and blow you guys up at will. Like these are the hops and the skips that these guys are making to justify what they're doing right now, which that doesn't actually do it in the court of law. But, they're just kind of shoving it down, and who's going to stop them? But anyway, let me continue. Let's see here. Following the announcement, Hernandez's attorney thanked Trump and said, "We look forward to President Hernandez's triumphant return to Honduras. We are so grateful to President Trump and everyone who supported President Hernandez. We believe he was a victim of lawfare and political persecution. A great injustice has been righted, and we are so hopeful for the future partnership of the United States and Honduras." Attorney Renato Stabile said in a statement. Trump also used his Truth Social post Friday to strongly back Honduran Conservative National Party presidential candidate Nasri Tito Asfura, tying U.S. support to the outcome of the election. If Tito Asfura wins for president of Honduras, because the United States has so much confidence in him, his policies, and what he will do for the great people of Honduras, we will be very supportive, the president wrote. If he doesn't win, the United States will not be throwing good money after bad, because a wrong leader can only bring catastrophic results to a country, no matter which country it is. On that, brother, I fucking agree with you. Tito will be a great president, and the United States will work closely with him in order to ensure the success with all of its potential of Honduras. On Sunday, Honduras will hold its general elections. So I suppose that this is at least a good entry point, because I really wasn't planning on covering Honduras elections. I didn't even know about it until he started yapping about it. But once again, I guess he just wanted to fucking put his thumb on the scale and try to make something happen. It did work for Argentina. I will say that, is like, whether you say it was, correct or corrupt or whatever, he did it. It worked. But yeah, we'll see. I just wanted to kind of get that in there, cover that. Let me take another water break, and then we'll actually take things to California. California. Try to be a little light. This is kind of a sad story, or there's no kind of about it. It is. All right. From the Associated Press, police search for shooter after 4 are killed, 3 of them children, in shooting in California. Authorities in California appealed to the public for tips, even rumors, as they searched Sunday for a suspect in the killing of 3 children and an adult during a mass shooting at a child's birthday party in Stockton. It's heartbreaking, said Heather Brent, a spokesperson for the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. She said investigators believe it was a targeted incident at a banquet hall where 100 people or more had been gathered Saturday night. Brent said the deceased were ages 8, 9, 14, and 21. 11 people were also wounded. No one was in custody by Sunday afternoon, and she did not elaborate on why authorities believe it was intentional or who might have been targeted. If you have surveillance footage, if you're a local business here, if you're in the area, live in the area, or maybe you've heard rumors, please contact the sheriff's office. She said she could not release information about a motive or details about a suspect, noting that it might hinder the investigation. Finding the person or persons who committed this crime is the number one priority, Brent said. Faith leaders in Stockton were planning an afternoon vigil to honor the dead and pray for the wounded. The shooting occurred just before 6 p.m. Saturday inside the hall, which shares a parking lot with other businesses. Stockton is a city of 320,000 residents, about 40 miles or 65 kilometers south of Sacramento. Let's see here. They talk about some other stuff in 2024, but we really won't get into that. Obviously a very sad, upsetting situation, very tragic. If there are any details in terms of a suspect, or, any kind of motive, I'll definitely try to come back to the story, come back to the shooting. But yeah, I know that we haven't necessarily covered as many shootings this year. There has definitely been other things kind of cramming up the headlines. But that being said, that does not mean that they are not happening, that they are not an ongoing thing, and that each one is obviously equally as tragic and, dare I say fucking avoidable. But that's for another time. Anyway, we have one more story that I wanted to cover, and we got to take to the skies. But first, we got to get a patch update. So let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll go ahead and close it out. I will say, I got a juicy nap in. I didn't mention this during the top of the blog stuff. I got a juicy nap in on Saturday. That was always nice. I feel like the older I get, the more imperative it is for me to have a nap on Saturday. I think, especially when it's like a laundry thing, which is hard because it's kind of impossible to get everything I want in. I just don't have enough time, right? But man, like the difference between having the nap and not having the nap is so night and day. What can I say? Anyway, sorry. This is 30. 30 something, that's for sure. Rattle. But I definitely missed y'all, my dear listeners. I don't like missing the episodes, but I don't know. This year has been a little bit more of that, taking a little bit more me time. So, hopefully you understand. Oh boy. From ABC News. Airlines adopt software fix for Airbus A320 after plane has sudden altitude drop. An aircraft heavily used by commercial airlines around the world needs a software fix to address an issue that contributed to a sudden drop in altitude of a JetBlue plane last month, the manufacturer and European aviation safety regulator said Friday. The step may result in some flight delays as U.S. travelers return home from the Thanksgiving holidays. Airbus said an analysis of the JetBlue incident revealed intense solar radiation may corrupt data critical to the functioning of flight controls of the A320 family of aircraft. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency issued a directive requiring operators of the A320 to address the issue. The agency said this may cause short-term disruption to flight schedules. American Airlines has about 480 planes from the A320 family, of which 209 are affected. The fix should take about 2 hours for many aircraft, and updates should be completed for the overwhelming majority on Friday, the airline said. A handful will be finished Saturday. American Airlines expects some delays, but it said it's focused on limiting cancellations as customers returning home from Thanksgiving holiday travel. It said safety would be its overriding priority. There's a little bit more yada here. But yeah, this story had piqued my interest. This was like the one story that I was like definitely down to cover on Saturday, but then I really didn't have enough to really cover. And then I really just didn't do my due diligence. And if I had just listened to like my usual news podcast, I would have. So that's on my bad. But, these things happen. Oopsie. But hey, better late than never. I thought this was an interesting story that literally radiation from the sun disrupted a plane enough that it dropped in altitude. Scary. Glad that no one died here. Glad it was silver lining. No one was like hurt or anything, at least not to my knowledge. So that's good. Love that. But then we see, okay, we have a big issue here because the software it could happen again. It could get erupted again when you're in the skies. So we got to update and we got to fix that. Now, to my knowledge, as of recording this, I haven't heard of any issues in terms of like major cancellations or delays over the weekend. I think things were overall smoothly, or at least as expected, and the fixes were put into place, and there weren't any problems after that. So that's good, If so, knock on the wood there. Because, we definitely don't want to have like another Boeing, year as we've had, I think, what was it, about a year or two ago? That was planes were going up and a little down and kids were losing their shirts. It was scary times. So hopefully less of that. But yeah, that is where we are going to close out for the day. That's the episode. I don't like to shill on Sundays, so hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.